Good morning, everyone, and welcome to NYSE TV Live. I'm Kristen Scholler here in studio at the stock exchange. Well, equities are a little changed this morning after the S&P 500 ended Friday just 2.4% from its record. It is a busy week ahead with several events that can surely impact the path forward for stocks. Well, today, U.S. and Chinese officials are expected to hold trade talks in London. That's according to President Donald Trump, which he announced on Friday. And Apple's annual Worldwide Developers Conference kicks off this afternoon. So traders will look to Apple for updates on its artificial intelligence features and how it is navigating tariffs. Plus, inflation data on Wednesday is expected to show consumer prices rose 0.2% in May from April, and economists estimate they were up 2.5% from the same time a year ago. Well, a preliminary read on June consumer sentiment on Friday will also include inflation expectations. Let's take a look at what's on tap this hour. Shares of stablecoin issuer Circle rose sharply since its IPO on Thursday. Dante Disparte, Circle's chief strategy officer and head of global policy and operations, told JD Durkin how his company is, quote, regulatory first, end quote, and how it's enhancing trust with users around the world. Meanwhile, KPMG's IPO Bootcamp is taking place today right here at the exchange, and the firm's U.S. capital markets readiness leader is going to tell me how today's event will help companies looking to eventually go public. Then, of course, at the open, 9:30 a.m. Eastern, pure play content company LIONSGATE is going to ring the opening bell to celebrate its recent stock exchange listing. We'll be providing sneak peeks of the upcoming projects throughout the hour. But first, investors are preparing, of course, for a 1-2 punch of inflation data, and the results could impact the Fed's rate cut timeline during the second half of the year. Joining me now with more is Bill Adams. He's a chief economist at Comerica Bank. Bill, welcome to the show. It's great to have you. And what are you expecting this week when it comes to inflation and the impact on stocks?
Good morning, Kristen. I'm expecting the CPI report to show that gas prices were lower in May, and that held down overall prices for American consumers. But we're going to start to see some pass-through of tariff costs to durable goods on American shelves and in American budgets.
So what does that mean for consumers? By and large, a 2.5% year-on-year gain. Do you think that that's something that's in line with your own forecasts?
2.5% CPI inflation is not bad. The Fed targets inflation of 2% by a slightly different measure that runs about 0.25% below the CPI. So we're pretty close to the Fed's target in the first half of this year. I think the issue is that with tariffs passing through to consumer prices, inflation's likely to pick up in the second half of the year. That's what we're seeing through recent consumer surveys and from business surveys. Last week, we got PMI data showing that business input costs are rising at the fastest pace since 2022. So sooner or later, that's going to push the CPI in a higher direction. That makes the May CPI report a little bit dated, even though the data for May is probably, again, still pretty good.
Yeah. How does the jobs picture factor into this, Bill? Of course, we do see job gains starting to slow, but still staying steady above 100,000 each month.
The jobs report for May was, I'd give it a B-. The headline was good with 139,000 jobs on the month. The unemployment rate stable at 4.2%. But you look beneath that, the components of the survey by which the unemployment rate is measured. We saw employment fall in that survey. We saw labor force participation fall in the survey. The job growth that we saw in May was disproportionately concentrated in healthcare jobs, which are less cyclical. More cyclical sectors have seen a big slowdown in hiring. So we are seeing some deterioration around the edges of the job market, but not enough that the Fed would consider cutting rates in the near term. So we think the Fed's likely on hold, at least for the next couple of decisions. And then the outlook beyond that really depends on how much tariff pass through to inflation we see in the second half.
Is there any risk that the Fed, amid this dynamic environment, certainly when it comes to trade policy and the funnel through to data, Bill, that the Fed is too late on cutting rates if that is indeed its next move?
I think we could see the Fed keep their foot on the brake for a considerable period. Now, is that too late? I think that will depend on what happens to inflation. We haven't had such a large increase in tariffs in generations in the United States. We're not sure how businesses and consumers will react to this. and inflation expectations have been rising due to the inflation surge of the last couple of years. So the Fed is concerned that inflation, even though it seems like it should be a one-off hit to inflation from higher tariffs, we might see a more persistent increase in inflation expectations, which could be self-reinforcing. And that's why the Fed doesn't feel comfortable cutting interest rates now or likely in the near term.
Interesting. And in terms of the knock-on effects here, Bill, anything more you can share? And of course, how that could funnel through to equity prices?
I think inflation right now is having the biggest effects on retail businesses. They're confronting that margin pressure. Manufacturers are also, we're seeing, it's a combination of the direct price effect of tariffs, but also the uncertainty of not knowing what tariff policy is going to be in a month or in a year or by this afternoon. And because of that, a lot of manufacturers have been slow rolling their hiring and investment plans this year. And that's caused a slowdown in manufacturing activity overall. We saw that in the May jobs report with a modest decline in manufacturing jobs in the month. I don't see that as a recession, but it does look like the economy is going to be in slow gear near term.
You know, we've seen some big IPOs of late. Certainly Circle here at the stock exchange last week was a blockbuster, providing some momentum with the S&P 500 just about 2% from its record high. It seems like consumer sentiment is improving, and we will get reads on that this week. Bill, do you see that as well?
Consumer sentiment looks like it's stabilizing to me. I think consumers have been in a funk for a couple of years now. If you look at where sentiment is today, it's down from the turn of the year, but in the last couple of reads, it's been more stable. In a decade or 2 decades ago, consumer sentiment would give you a great advance read of what was likely to happen with consumer spending. In more recent years, consumers have been saying one thing and then doing another when it comes to actually spending. So I'm hopeful that this year, while we see some signs of caution from consumers, over the next couple of months, we'll see consumer sentiment stabilize, and with that, consumers go back to spending and keeping the economy moving forward.
All right, Bill Adams, he's chief economist at Comerica Bank. Bill, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, well, coming up, Circle scored 2 straight days of gains in its Wall Street debut, back-to-back on Thursday and Friday, and you want to hear how it has been able to solidify trust with users and regulators globally. First, though, is LIONSGATE gets set to ring the bell, written and directed by and starring, I should say, Aziz Ansari, alongside Keanu Reeves as a well-meaning guardian angel, comes the refreshing comedy called Good Fortune. Also stars Seth Rogen and Keke Palmer. Good Fortune is only in theaters October 17th. Let's take a sneak peek.
Martha?
Yes, Gabriel.
Is there any way I can have more meaningful duties? I want to guide people. I want to change their lives.
To save a lost soul, you have to find a lost soul.
Hey, Arch, don't forget your pee bottle, bro.
A lost soul. Arch, I'm an angel. My name is Gabriel. I'm here to save you.
What?
Who the hell are you?
How do you know my name?
I'm normally only in charge of saving people from texting and driving.
Wait, you're telling me I have a budget guardian angel?
Kinda.
Do you know that guy? He's got the long hair, kind of tall.
Oh, yeah, Gabriel. He's an angel.
He's hot.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go sit on his face.
That will really confuse him.
At ICE, we aim to solve some of the biggest problems in markets. Often these issues come down to a lack of transparency because a market doesn't have the right technology, data, or systems. We address this by digitizing analog markets. Digitizing markets brings transparency. At the heart of this is our technology. It's the same technology which underpins our trading venues, that powers the New York Stock Exchange, that drives our fixed income pricing and our mortgage platform. Deep trust in our markets has made us the world's largest exchange for energy trading. Our exchanges price the world's most important commodities, many of which support the shift to lower carbon fuels. In mortgages, we operate across the life of a loan. Through electronification, we're making the home buying process faster and simpler. And through our data, we're bringing new transparency to mortgage securities. We're bringing you powerful, fast technology, access to a depth of market data. We're building liquid markets across asset classes and geographies. And we're listening to our customers every day about what you need.
Welcome back to NYSE TV Live. Well, this past Thursday, Circle made plenty of noise here at the stock exchange, and we're not just talking about the fact that they rang the opening and closing bells. Shares of the stablecoin issuer soared by 247% in their first 2 days of trade. And JD Durkin has more on the story.
Dante Disparte is the Chief Strategy Officer and the Head of Global Policy at Circle. Join us for a huge day here at the New York Stock Exchange, the company's IPO. Congratulations. Thanks for being here.
Thank you so much, JD.
I know that many in your industry see regulation as a challenge. Talk to me about how you fundamentally are going about that conversation, maybe a bit differently for you and the team at Circle.
Well, for us, look, it's always been a feature, not a bug. We have been a regulatory first company since the very beginning. Since the first USDC was issued, we complied with state money transmission laws, with combating illicit finance. We have always thought that you could have innovation, integrity, and responsible sort of access to the dollar all over the world and not have to throw the baby out with the bathwater when it comes to rulemaking. So we're very proud to not only make this accomplishment possible today, but to see progress all over the world in terms of regulating this activity.
Yeah, I think regulation, transparency, this idea of compliance, especially now as a publicly traded company, Dante, now it's a much different conversation for the company, but you still have always stood on the shoulders of this long-running reputation. How has Circle been able to go about earning that reputation?
Well, there's no doubt the IPO today is the attainment of a long-standing objective for us as a company. We have always aspired to be a public firm, in part because it would enhance trust, transparency, and accountability for what we've been doing with USDC, one of our core products, a digital dollar used by people all over the world. So we think this milestone today merely enhances the core trust in USDC as a product, but it also helps to unlock and accelerate the broader part of our vision, which is to raise global economic prosperity through the frictionless exchange of value. You're not going to do that if stablecoins are a part of fringe finance or living in the shadows. And so we think today's milestone just really puts the activity in the light of day, sets a standard, and then what we hope would come from Congress in the not too distant future, the Genius Act, would regulate stablecoin activity in the Circle way of doing business, which will make digital dollars like USDC an export product rather than an import product to the US.
Assuming a lot more of that government support, both from lawmakers, policymakers, regulators alike, where do you think, or maybe where do you hope the stablecoin industry can be in even just the next few years?
Well, look, I would argue that in many ways, to quote Winston Churchill, today's milestone marks the end of the beginning. We're a long-term company in every respect since our first founding and since the first issuance of USDC all the way through today. We've been focused on really long-term priorities. And so we think in the future you could expect a world in which device-centric financial services powered by stablecoins like USDC are a part of everyday life for people all over the world. The way we move money is stuck. Your and my financial needs don't take bank holidays, and our money shouldn't either. And that's a part of what we're making possible.
We've talked about the Genius Act, which is, of course, very United States Congress focused. But what does this company look like in terms of scale growth opportunities around the world?
Well, look, for the last 4 years, and one of my core priorities since I joined the company and our broader company priority was to ensure that the sun never set on the business. And so we have prioritized a regulatory platform in Asia out of Singapore, where we have a major payments institution license. We're the first company to comply with Europe's far-reaching digital asset laws, MiCA. Out of France, where we have an e-money license supporting all of European activity. And of course, the Genius Act would represent a milestone that is long overdue here in the United States to assert U.S. leadership in this digital asset domain. And one thing we're really pushing for is that all of these rules that come into force around the world are harmonized rather than fragmented, because that preserves the core feature of this type of financial activity.
Dante Disparte, congratulations on a huge day for you and the team at Circle. Thanks a lot for taking a few minutes to sit down with us.
Thank you so much, JB.
All right, thanks again to Circle's Dante Disparte and JD Durkin for that interview last week. We'll stay on the topic of IPOs. KPMG is helping companies looking to go public prepare to take that next step right here at the stock exchange today. And up next, we'll have those details.
Team is ready to proceed at this time.
You have permission to launch.
FPU is go. LRD is go. SRO is go. CDR is go.
Ignition sequence start. Engines on.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Liftoff. We have liftoff.
Hosting this event is a tremendous honor for us at the New York Stock Exchange. We like to remind people that our nation and our markets grew up side by side.
Lynn, thanks to you and the Stock Exchange for permitting us all to gather. It's so good to be back here.
But tonight, it's not just another elegant dinner among distinguished peers. It is a turning point in the history of the Medal of Honor.
We're honored to be in the presence of nearly 20 of our nation's 61 living Medal of Honor recipients.
This evening marks a renewal, a reaffirmation of our mission, and a call to action for all of us who are entrusted with carrying this legacy forward.
Because of people like you, we are able to do what we do every day, to turn that dream into a reality.
Welcome back to NYSE TV Live. Well, today, professional services firm KPMG is holding its IPO Bootcamp right here at the Stock Exchange. And the event offers insights into the IPO process, capital markets trends, and alternative exit strategies. Well, KPMG says it's going to be helping companies understand the steps and challenges that come with going public, conducting workshops to educate participants, and holding one-on-one consultations to address specific questions. Well, joining me now with more, Sherry Major. She's KPMG's U.S. Capital Markets Readiness Leader, taking a dive into today's event. Sherry, welcome.
Thank you for having me.
It's great to have you here at the Stock Exchange today. What is KPMG's role in this IPO Bootcamp?
Yeah, absolutely. So we're the headline sponsor of the event and partnering very closely with the New York Stock Exchange to hold this event at such an iconic venue. And then we've brought together a variety of experts from across the ecosystem. So we have JP Morgan with us, Cooley, Workiva, and of course a number of KPMG advisors as well. And really just with the goal of sharing our expert advice and guidance to the participants of the event today, and really educating them on the process of thinking about going public, what it takes to get ready, what it actually means to go through the listing process, and then really life begins as a public company from that point forward.
And I love that this is coming just after a big success case here at the stock exchange. Of course, Circle listing late last week, triple-digit pop, of course,
yes,
on the first 2 days of trade. So pretty impressive. What is this day going to entail?
So we have a number of sessions scheduled where we'll have some presentations. So for example, JP Morgan will tell us a little bit about what we're seeing in the market these days, and certainly last week's events are a nice shining spot on hopefully what we can expect. And then we have a few different panel discussions where we have a number of the advisors sharing their insights around the pre-IPO process, what it takes to actually go through the IPO, and then life as a public company. And it also gives participants a chance to ask questions, network with their peers, and really get some one-on-one time with the advisors.
Yeah, I'm sure that one-on-one time, very coveted indeed. What do you hope attendees take away from today?
Well, I hope that they, learn about the process. If they've, never been through it before, don't really know what to expect, it's sort of a first taste of that. And really helping them understand where they're going to need to spend their efforts and how to prioritize, various aspects of the process. I think it helps them make decisions around when to start, what that means, how long the journey might be, and really should give them, I think, the confidence to embark on the process and think about how they, whatever their role is, can help sort of drive their organization's readiness.
Yeah, I think that's a great insight. So I'm curious in terms of how KPMG comes in and helps companies throughout this life cycle. I know you've talked about how we can get to that culmination point in IPO here, for instance, at the stock exchange, but what is the life cycle like?
Well, so we would typically start working with a company, say 2 years before an IPO, and we bring the breadth of KPMG's expertise, whether it's around audit, tax, or advisory, and really help a company think about assessing, their current state and what they need to do to be ready to be a public company. And for some, they're just embarking on the journey. Others have maybe already been focused on getting ready, and so that journey is very different for every company, but it's really helping them start to put in place the rigor that it will take to operate as a public company. We always say the more you're operating as a public company while you're private, the better the transition will be when they actually do go.
Yeah, and any more expectations, Sherry, that you can share with us today here at the exchange?
Well, I'm certainly looking forward to some robust dialogue.
Yeah.
I know we've all been very focused on the market. This year we've had some ups and downs compared to what everyone was expecting, but I think we're seeing some shining green shoots with recent activity and some optimism about what's to come in the third quarter and through the rest of the year. And so hearing insights from the various advisors who operate in this space, as well as getting the questions from the participants in the room to hear what's on their mind, what do they want to know, and how can we be most helpful to them.
Comes, of course, as the S&P 500 is just about 2% from a record high, so I'm sure market conditions are something that your clients and those that you work with think about as well.
Absolutely, yeah. I think everyone's watching on a daily basis, and certainly what we've seen recently, I think gives us all hope that we're going to have a very strong year.
Yeah, amazing. Sherry Major, she's KPMG's U.S. Capital Markets Readiness Leader here at the Stock Exchange today, of course, for the annual IPO Bootcamp that the Stock Exchange is happy to host and be a part of. Sherry, thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
All right, well, up next, LIONSGATE is set to ring the opening bell and officially kick off this week's trade. First, though, from the master storyteller Stephen King and acclaimed director Francis Lawrence, here's a look at the upcoming dystopian thriller, The Long Walk, only in theaters September 12th.
I'm Ray Garrity. You can call me Ray.
Prima Freeze. Hank Olson's the name. Walking's my game.
I ain't many that are built like me. I'm the last of my kind.
We did the very first long walk years ago to inspire everyday people.
Smile, boys. You're on candid camera. Man, you gotta not think about the things out of your control. Think about your plan.
Personally, I can't stop thinking about all that money.
You'll never find another like me. I'm the last of my kind.
First warning.
Okay, just keep walking.
That's right.
Just keep walking.
Yeah, that's it, kid. That's it. Second warning. Third warning.
It takes heavy sack to sign up for this contest. I'm not going to go through the whole rule book, but it boils down to this. If you fall below the speed of 3 miles per hour, you get your ticket. Walk until there's only one of you left. Who's ready to win?
Yeah, it took me a while to realize the truth of this. This is walk or die.
You'll walk as long as you can. But sometimes the body won't listen. For some, your heart will stop. For others, your brain. And the blood will flow suddenly. There's one winner. And no finish line.
It's not just a moment, it's really a movement. And right now that future is being written by AI. We don't just ring the bell on a trading day, we hopefully ring in a new era. An era where humans are exponentially more powerful with technology than alone. That's why it's called Human X.
3,500 professionals attending with over 300 speakers with the most influential voices in AI, business, tech, people who genuinely care about changing the future. We're not just talking about the future here, both at the NYSE and at Human X. We're building it.
This year alone, the companies at Human X have raised $95 billion in capital. From predictive analytics that help investment strategies to AI-powered risk management, the companies that embrace this technology will lead the next decade of market growth, where AI isn't just another tool, it's a force multiplier. A future where those who understand its potential, for those who invest in its power, won't just adapt, they will lead. So folks, welcome to this new era. Let's go ring the bell.
Welcome back to NYSE TV Live. Well, in just a moment, NYSE-listed pure-play content company LIONSGATE is set to ring the opening bell. Comes after LIONSGATE Entertainment separated its studio and Stars businesses into two separate companies. Well, here's some stats about LIONSGATE output. The company says it releases 30 to 40 films a year, including a dozen wide theatrical releases, but it's producing on the small screen too, creating more than 100 shows. Now, overall, its film and TV library includes over 20,000 titles. And today's bell ringer, LIONSGATE CEO Jon Feltheimer has been responsible for notable productions like The Hunger Games and John Wick franchises, plus Academy Award winners like La La Land. We do see stocks a little change, just about 30 seconds away from that opening bell. The S&P 500 just a hair over 2% from its all-time high. Last it hit that level back in February before some of the tariffs set in. But a lot of questions this week as to what this inflation data will bring. And let's take a look here as LIONSGATE gets ready to ring the opening bell to kick off what will be a very busy week on Wall Street following Circle's successful debut on Thursday. Officially off to the races. The stock market opened for trade on this Monday, and we do see fractional gains across the board. Very much in focus today, of course, are trade talks between the U.S. and China in London that the president teased last week. Inflation data, and yes, follow through on Circle's successful IPO here at the stock exchange last week. Well, joining me now with more on the markets is Simeon Wallace, Chief Investment Officer and Partner at IPO Advisory Group. Simeon, thanks so much for joining the show this morning down there in Atlanta. And what do you make with the stock market as close as it is to that February record?
Yeah, it's been pretty fascinating in that we've seen this very strong rebound in multiples, even though earnings estimates have been trending down coming out of earnings season since it. We've seen also credit spreads narrow. So the market is essentially looking past a lot of that volatility that we all felt over the first 4 weeks after the April 2nd announcements.
Yeah, and where do you think stocks are heading from here, Simeon? What are going to be the driving factors in the days and weeks ahead?
Yeah, well, we have the Fed announcement coming up. Our expectation is that the Fed is going to hold steady. They're going to be patient as economic data, while softening, is still showing growth. So we anticipate that the Fed will maintain its current policy. Once we get beyond that, we're going to get into July with earnings season. We'll get further insights into how companies are managing margins and thinking about what the potential impacts from tariffs are. And hopefully by that point in time, we'll also have more clarity on trade policies and where this settles out.
Yeah. Of course, the impact on inflation with tariffs very much in focus too, and economists estimated inflation was up 2.5% last month from the same time a year ago, a little bit higher than what we've seen of late, and still a bit above the Fed's long-term 2% target. Is there an expectation that you have in terms of how trade policy may impact the prices that consumers pay?
Well, there is. What we've seen is that companies are starting to price in anticipated higher input costs. And so when we speak to companies and understand what their perspective is, they'd rather get ahead of the game than be behind. So we would expect that you'd see some higher potential inflation on the margin from that. However, we also have had lower energy prices as expectations for global GDP growth have slowed. We've seen the oil prices come down a little bit, so that'll help offset some of that inflationary pressure, which leads us to more think that we'll be in a slow, gradual decline as we look at what inflation is likely to be over the next 2 or 3 months.
Yeah. In terms of earnings, we're in a bit of a lull right now. First quarter earnings, by and large, were better than expected. We know traditionally corporate earnings does actually drive the stock market forward. Were you able to gather any clues from companies in terms of the impact on trade policy as we're now in this transitionary phase between the second quarter results?
What we're seeing is that decision makers are in a period of fog, essentially, where they are on one hand trying to maintain those long-term expectations and around growth and what organic growth should be for their businesses, but at the same time, they are quicker to potentially pull back. So CapEx expectations have come down while pricing has increased. What that's meant for us is that that companies are essentially trying to take a slower approach to thinking about how this year will play out. And in the back half of the year, we do believe that there might be some risk to earnings estimates currently if the trade policy continues to be uncertain. The quicker we get that certainty, the more likely we are to have a pickup in earnings growth as we look into the third and fourth quarters of this year. So that's the big factor here, is just understanding what's the time frame that decision makers can make decisions on. And what we've seen so far is that that's been a bit murky.
Yeah. We're also going to get consumer confidence, sentiment, I should say, toward the end of the week. And the expectation is that it's improved a little bit based on that preliminary read for June versus what we saw in May. Are you finding that the consumer is getting more comfortable to an environment where we see trade policy changing in real time?
On the margin, I would say they are getting a little bit more comfortable than where they were in April. But let's remember, we had consumer confidence plummet to levels that we haven't experienced in decades. So we're coming off of really a sharp bottom when you think about this. But we're seeing actually a bifurcated consumer. We have secure consumers, they're probably mid-career or later, that are well employed, and they're continuing to spend. They're spending a little bit more thoughtfully than they have in the past. So companies like Dollar General are noting that middle income and higher income consumers are a larger part of their mix. We contrast that with a more of a stretched consumer who could be earlier in their career or perhaps below median incomes, and they are definitely experiencing difficulties from the higher potential inflation rates and really what's compounded over the last few years. So it's important to think about the consumer not homogenously, but more broken into those two buckets.
Simeon Wallace, Chief Investment Officer and Partner at Aprio Advisory Group. Simeon, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, in some other news, the latest episode of the Inside the Ice House podcast has dropped early this morning. And in this episode, the CEO of NYSE-listed Universal Technical Institute, Jerome Grant, joined host Lance Glynn and spoke to his company's unyielding focus on quality and how it impacts their growth, diversification, and optimization strategies. Let's take a look.
Unyielding focus on quality permeates everything that we've done. And so even if we think about our growth, our diversification, our optimization strategies, we do it all in the light of staying focused on outcomes. If students don't get great jobs, we don't succeed. They succeed, we succeed. And so once you dedicate yourself to that underlying notion that we're never going to yield on quality, we're never going to yield on marketability, we're not going to yield, that stands by you in anything you do. It actually dictates how fast we move. We could build many more than 2 campuses a year. The supply and demand curve is so far out of whack that we could build twice as many campuses and still not fill the demand for skilled workers in America. But we don't. And we don't because we don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves in terms of quality.
Well, later in the conversation, Grant spoke in detail about his company's North Star strategy. Launched in 2019, he explained how the strategy is helping plot the road ahead for UTI. Let's take a look.
We talk about more campuses, more geography, getting to more students. Yep. Right? When we talk about diversification, we talk about more skills. Mm-hmm. You know, UTI for many years was really just auto diesel. Mm-hmm. And now UTI is auto, diesel, motorcycle, marine, aviation, welding, electrician training, as well as renewable energy and HVAC. Mm-hmm. So what we really now have diversified into a tech center. We talk to about 500,000 18 to 24-year-olds a year. Some of them just don't want to fix cars. Mm-hmm. They want to go out and they want to fix something, or they want to operate something. They want to weld. They want to do that. And so we diversified the population. And then optimization really has to do with both the way we teach and the way we think about our locations.
The Inside the Ice House podcast releases new episodes every Monday morning on all of the major podcast platforms. And you can watch full-length video episodes on the NYSE TV app as well as the NYSE's YouTube channel. All right, well, still to come, Cannes Lions begins just a week from today, and one survey reveals new insights into the advertising industry. Steve Phillips, co-founder of Zappy, tells us what types of ads are leading to success. And elsewhere, video editing and artificial intelligence research startup Captions just received high praise from Forbes. Well, its CEO, Gaurav Misra, shares what it means for his company. Then later on in the show, one NYSE-listed company made history before the birth of the exchange itself. You do not want to miss that story. We will have much more up next.
You are bringing the types of services that people need to the masses.
We are
we're going to write the future of healthcare, one where care is more personalized, more accessible, and much lower cost.
You both had injuries and turned it into an amazing company.
Together, we've built the product that is automating away 95% of human clinician hours associated with physical therapy. And along the way, we've transformed outcomes, experience, and the cost structure. Each of you were hand-selected to be here today because you have been leaving a positive impact on this world. This IPO is an important moment, but it is still just the beginning of our story, and you each have a hand on this pen. Gabriel and I are so grateful to come to work with you every single day. So what do you say? Let's ring that
bell. February 14th, I rang that bell. It was just unreal. You know, the enormity of this thing is just like hitting me. I don't know about you guys, but this is really, really exciting. Some of the best ideas when your backs are against the wall, and many in this room that have been here 15 plus years, that if you just keep your head down, whatever challenges you face in your life, it will lead to days like this. We would not be here today without every single one of you killing it every day. I can't thank you guys enough, so congratulations to all of you. I get to have all the accolades up here and I get to speak, but it's really all of you guys that have made this possible. I just happen to be the facilitator, and I'm proud to be that.
And welcome back to NYSE TV Live. Well, ahead of this year's Cannes Lions event, consumer insights platform Zappy released its third annual State of Creative Effectiveness report with insights from VaynerMedia. Joining me now with more is Steve Phillips, Zappy's co-founder and chief innovation officer. Steve, thank you so much for joining. We are all looking forward to Cannes kicking off next week. You're joining from London, and of course the NYSE is going to have a presence on the ground there. What is this festival all about?
Well, Cannes Lions is a festival of creativity. So it's all about advertising, understanding and judging great creatives across the world. So it has entries from all over the world and some brilliant creative geniuses coming from behind it. But it's not all sort of sunshine and rosé, unfortunately, nowadays. The budget cuts we've seen, Gartner reported on it last week, of 15% year on year for marketing. And the budgets generally for marketing are down around 30% since the pandemic. So nowadays, people are looking much harder at the advertising they're creating, making sure it really delivers for brands and not just is creative for creative's sake, or even media for media's sake. So that's what we'll be hopefully helping companies with.
Yeah, so what do you anticipate will come out of Cannes this year? And for our viewers watching who might not be very familiar with the festival, how exactly does it unfold on the ground?
Well, Cannes, the film festival is obviously on a couple of weeks before, and Cannes is really overtaken by the festival. So there's obviously main stages with brilliant speakers from across the world of advertising, of business, celebrities, etc. Plus a lot of individual spaces where companies and topics are discussed. People come together to talk about ideas, to see. Obviously, artificial intelligence will be a major issue and major subject of debate this year, as it has been for the last year or two. So it's a chance for brands, for advertising agencies, for insight people, professionals to come together with media companies to try and understand the best way of working with these brands to execute great creative that really drives the needle in terms of performance instead of just, winning an award for the award's sake.
Yeah, I do want to ask you, with your intel here, what is driving sales from a marketing and advertising perspective these days?
So definitely it's emotion. So there's so many messages around, so many brands that consumers can feel overwhelmed, and they really need to create an emotional resonance, an emotional connection with brands. So advertising that initiates that is really significantly stronger in terms of sales impact. So what we've seen is if you're in the top 25% of sales impact, 25% of creative effectiveness, you'll have double the sales impact as if you weren't. So that emotional connection is really key. Some brands just look to things like celebrities to try and use their celebrity appeal. But we found that celebrities, they can help, but they often will help the celebrity more than the brand. So one of the other major findings is making sure that any celebrity endorsement is endorsing your brand and not instead building the brand of the celebrity themselves.
Yeah. How is effectiveness built in to make sure that these do resonate and are successful?
Sure, we're looking at effectiveness in multiple ways. So obviously there's the media side of the component. So you're looking at media effectiveness, its rate, its reach. But then you're looking at the creative side, which is much more about resonance. So do people feel engaged with the ad? Can they see themselves in it? Does it make the brand feel more relevant to them? Those are the types of metrics that we're looking to help brands push forward with and using our platform to optimize, because if they can do that, then we've seen a significant correlation with end sales effectiveness.
Are you going to be on the ground, Steve?
I am indeed hoping to be hoping to make the odd yacht party or two, but also I'm speaking at various different events across the week, talking about AI, insight, effectiveness, and how we can together improve the marketing of our brands.
Is there a way to quantify just how palpable and effective AI really is?
So AI is really helping execute efficiency, but is less strong on the terms of effectiveness. So if companies are using it just to maximize the click-through rate of a digital campaign, then that is useful. But if the campaign itself doesn't attract people to the brand, then they're sort of spending their money for no reason. So what we've seen is the use of AI to help understand consumers, drive relevance, but you really need that human creativity to create the emotional connection that brands really need to be able to cut through.
All right. Thank you so much for joining. That's Steve Phillips. He's Zappy's co-founder and chief innovation officer. Thank you again.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Yep. All right, coming up, startup AI platform Captions was recently named to an exclusive list, and its CEO will take us through how his firm is standing out. But first, the Four Horsemen return along with a new generation of illusionists in the new installment of LIONSGATE's Now You See Me franchise. Now You See Me, Now You Don't, only in theaters November. Take a look.
In the world of magic, everything that disappears reappears. Woo! It is very good to be back.
Come up, you're gonna be our helper.
Okay, disappear in 3, 2, 1.
J. Daniel Atlas in the house. Who wants to see a magic trick? I think we would have made the Horsemen proud. My Atlas was spot on.
Really? I'll be the judge of that. According to that card, for some reason, I need you.
Why not the other Horsemen?
The other Horsemen are dead.
Oh my God, what?
No, they're like dead to me. Things got too real for them. They gave up. Stop interrupting. I'm talking about a trick that is bigger and better than anything you have ever seen. It's now or never.
What's the trick?
The Heart Diamond. It's the most valuable jewel in history.
But what makes this diamond so special?
Because a magical tarot card told us.
For decades, the Vanderbergs have been selling diamonds to warlords, arms dealers, traffickers to help launder their money.
If you want to stop the devil, don't cut off her hands. You lift her wallet.
Open sesame.
Still safe with me.
Relax. Diamonds are forever.
Stop him!
Jack? What are you doing here?
Saving your ass. Emily Reed?
Fanboy later.
Hi, guys.
Hi. I don't know you.
Let's go!
My horsemen. We were brought together for a reason.
Gummy's kicked in.
Bring down 2 generations of criminals with a single sleight of hand.
8 magicians against a worldwide criminal network. I like our chances.
Want to see a magic trick?
Thaddeus? You enjoying the show?
Shall we get on with it?
Hey guys, dead end.
Open sesame.
Way to represent, Merritt.
Worth a try, was it? Never know. I think you do know.
Greek name for the aspen tree is aspis. Aspen trees are the last to burn in a fire and the first to repopulate and replenish. We exist to protect and shield our customers from risk and to help them rebuild when the worst happens. Our listing today comes at a time when the role of insurance in helping businesses take risks and grow is more important than ever. Every day, the team at Aspen proudly helps our customers by bringing them clarity, values, collaboration, and doing the right thing. I would like to congratulate the entire Aspen team on the successful launch of the business back onto the New York Stock Exchange.
Welcome back to NYSE TV Live. Well, we can take a quick check of the markets. Stocks still within striking distance of their all-time highs. The Dow down just about 0.2%, but we did see the S&P 500 end Friday. There's a live look. Little changed really for the S&P, just about 2% from its all-time high. So certainly stocks have gathered a lot of momentum in the past few weeks, and we see that play out here at the stock exchange. Earlier this spring, video editing and artificial intelligence research startup Captions was named to Forbes AI 50 list, which highlights the most promising privately held AI companies around the world. Joining me now in studio with more is Gaurav Misra. He's Captions co-founder and CEO. Gaurav, welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Congratulations. Quite the honor being named to Forbes' top AI list.
No, thanks. This has been pretty amazing for us and excited to be recognized.
Give our viewers a sense of how your company is using AI.
Yeah, so, our main goal is to make it easy to create video, and we're targeting the broad market. So think, small businesses, consumers, prosumers, but also medium and large businesses as well, right? And the two main problems that people run into is that recording video is hard. As you know, you need cameras, lights, a lot of things. And also editing video is hard too, right? So you have to figure out all these technical terms like keyframes and things like that. Video editing is a difficult process. And so we help people get that out of their way. So we use AI models, and we've trained foundation models for this purpose, to both virtually record video as well as edit it.
And in terms of what users can expect if they use your app, is this something that they're paying for? Is it for free? And how can they embed it in their regular experience?
Yes, so it is a paid software. And since it's targeted mostly at small businesses, it's very reasonably priced in a subscription. A lot of people use it for advertising and marketing and things like that. So if you imagine like a small business like a nail salon, right, or a plumber, a lot of times they don't have, the ability to hire a camera crew or the ability to hire a video editor. They may not even know what a video editor is, right? And so we help them create either ads or promotional material, content for their website, where they can help grow their business by getting the word out about what they do and who they are.
Interesting. And in terms of business use cases, companies are tapping into AI more and more to be more efficient and productive. What's the case for a business to use this?
Yeah, so that's been really exciting for us. So, we've been around for about 4 years, so it's been a short period of time. And this year, we've specifically started focusing more on the medium to large size businesses. The reason for that is the technology has really come that far now, right? As we've been training our models and building bigger and bigger models, suddenly now we've crossed a threshold where large and medium-sized businesses can use this. Like, it is prime time for AI video in the business world. And so we launched, actually, with that happening just a couple of days ago, a product called Mirage Studio, which is our first entry into the medium and large size business market. And so with Mirage Studio, any business can create pretty much absolutely realistic looking video of anybody in any place with any kind of wardrobe saying pretty much anything you want. Now, this is a very powerful technology, and a lot of times we expect people to use it for things like marketing. That might be the first use case, but it could expand into more.
Interesting. Of course, New York Tech Week was underway last week as well, and I'm sure your company did play an active role in that. What can you share with us about your presence and the tech scene here that we see in New York?
Yeah, so New York Tech Week has been amazing because, New York is a huge city, and tech is just a small part of it, right? And there hasn't been really traditionally a forum where people can come together within the tech community and discuss ideas, learn from each other, and that's kind of what's been set up. And so one of our investors, Andreessen Horowitz, has organized Tech Week over the last several years, and this one has been one of the largest ones. So I had a chance to speak at a couple of different events. We talked about culture, how AI is going to impact culture.
Yeah.
Not just, obviously on the video side, there's so many implications, but even audio and music and, text. So much is changing right now. And, some of it's going to be good, some of it's going to be difficult. And we're trying to figure out, what's the best path to move forward, right? That's the only thing we have control over.
What is next for Captions?
Yeah, so as we're developing our models, some of the big things that'll be coming next is more control over video. So, today we can create videos of people talking, delivering lines, and dare I say, acting, right? But that control will get stronger and stronger. So you'll be able to really get extreme amounts of emotion, right? Like specific scenes. You'll be able to give backstories of like, maybe this person, just went to the store and they forgot their wallet. How are they going to react, right? The model will come up with that. It'll be smart enough to know what to do in that situation, right? And play it almost like an actor, right? And so those are the things that are coming next. And, beyond that, things like video editing will get stronger and stronger from the AI perspective, right? AIs will be better at looking at video, figuring out how to organize it, how to just put forward the best story, right? So those are the things that are coming next.
All right. Gaurav Misra, he's Captions co-founder and CEO. Gaurav, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, before we go, you might not know this bit of trivia that predates the stock exchange. Alexander Hamilton is often celebrated at the NYSE for his debt plan that inadvertently created the exchange. Well, America's soon-to-be first Treasury Secretary knew that a central bank was vital for issuing lines of credit and stimulating the economy. On this day in history, June 9th, 1784, the Bank of New York opened for business at 1 Wall Street, right down the street from where the NYSE would be founded less than a decade later. Establishing BNY so early was crucial to New York City's rise as a financial center around the world, and the firm's success fueled Hamilton's efforts to create Central National Bank, the Bank of the U.S. It's going to do it for today's show. Thanks for watching.
Thank you for being innovators in the market. Thank you for all you do every day to show the world what best in class truly means.
We are incredibly proud to join the ranks of other highly successful companies who partnered with this legendary institution.
What a time to be here. I am so proud of what we're doing. This is a huge milestone for our business. There's a lot of people responsible for getting to where we are today.
We have a role to play in bridging the gaps that exist today between us.
Not many people get to do something big in this world, and we get to do something truly special.
This is such a wonderful place to both look back and look forward. I'm so optimistic about what lies ahead. It has been a privilege to be with you.